Hello there. I'm going to talk about Collings guitars and Collings dreadnoughts here, and my thanks first of all to Mr. John Dunne, who suggested that I did some videos on my guitars and the story behind them. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. 1975, I bought a 1973 Martin D35, and I kept that, I've just worked it out, for 25 years. And then for some reason I sold it to a friend and bought a Martin J40, which I really didn't get along with because it had 1 11/16 neck, like the D35, but also a shallow neck, and I found that I was fluffing notes. I was opening for a gentleman called Isaac Guillory, a wonderful musician and a very nice guy, sadly no longer with us, telling him of my problems, and he handed me his Martin D35S. These were made from about 1964, I think, to 1993, and it had a 1/7/8 nut width, as did the original dreadnoughts. 12 fret, slotted head, all that sort of stuff. Instantly I could play whatever I wanted on his guitar, but it was his guitar, not mine. So I commenced a search for a 12 fret guitar that had, well, it wasn't about 12 frets, it wasn't about slotted headstocks, it was about the wider fretboard. A long and unsuccessful search in the UK and in Europe, and even in the States. I went over to the New England area and had a look round there, and I couldn't find the Martin that I was looking for. Came back in 1999. I got a call from a very specialist guitar shop in London called the Acoustic Centre, and I was summoned up, and they had assembled for me a Bourgeois DS260, a Santa Cruz D12, a Martin HD28VS, and the second Collings DS2H to come into the country. And there it was that I found perfection. The nearest to perfection I had ever seen. The presentation was perfect, the sound was beautiful, and it's not this one. It was a 1998 build. 2 of them had come into the country, 1 of them had come in and gone straight out to all the guitar magazines and things for reviews. And I had the second one. I bought the second one on that day, and it was a beautiful instrument, and I was very happy with it for a long time. Apart from about 6 weeks after I bought it, I did a gig, and I'll never know the truth, but it either fell off a stand on the stage or it was pulled off by someone that was psyching me out a little bit there. I'll never know, but the headstock was all smashed up. Got repaired, guitar worked perfectly evermore, no further problems with it, but it had the scars of it. So I had that DS2H, and then in 2010 I looked on eBay and I found this, which is a Martin, which is a Collings DS1. I should explain this nomenclature. DS1, D for dreadnought, S, standard, as in S on D35S in Martin's. Collings, S, DS means 12 fret body, 1 mahogany. The DS2H was D for dreadnought, S for standard, 2 for rosewood, H for herringbone. We'll see it again, I expect, in a moment. This was in an auction on eBay with a very nominal starting price. I looked at it and was waiting for the auction to end, and I put in the starting price. No one else bid, and I got it for a very reasonable price, much to the chagrin of the gentleman that was selling it. But he honoured the deal and he sent it to me, and when it arrived it was astoundingly pristine, absolutely perfect. There was nothing you could grumble about on this instrument at all. And so I contacted him to say that I had received it, it was in perfect condition, and thanked him for his honesty and the packing and shipping and everything. He said, yeah, and the shipping cost me a lot more than I thought as well. So I sent him some money to compensate him for that. I like a win-win deal myself. This is so loud and projects so much that it's my bluegrass guitar of choice. When I'm playing with a 5-piece, this is the one that really cuts through. Not that I'm playing bluegrass much more, but it's still a lovely instrument. And a very dark spruce, Sitka spruce top. So that was 2010. 2011 I got into this habit of looking on eBay rather a lot, and this one came up, and this is a DS2H, just like my first one. DS2H, D for dreadnought, S for standard, 2 for rosewood, and H for herringbone. This is a 2007 build, and I remember bidding on it and not having much competition, and I remember coming downstairs and saying to my wife, I've just bought another Collings DS2H and I'm not quite sure why. But we thought we'd make a weekend of it, so I booked a hotel and I thought I'd take her out for a nice meal after I collected it. But it was Mother's Day and I'd forgotten that, so the hotel we stayed in was alright, but I couldn't get into a decent restaurant. So that was a bit of a failure, but we got it back and I got it fixed up. It needed quite a bit of setup work, but it is now a lovely guitar. In comparison with the old DS1, which I think I might have done in a previous video somewhere, this has a more rounded tone. Collings maintained the ethos that Martin used to until the Dreadnought came out, of balanced, no bias across the strings, so equally balanced bass and treble and middle. When Martin brought out the 14 fret Dreadnought, they discarded that and went for a bass bias, but this has all the bass you could ever want. Now, these guitars all have 1 13/16 nut widths and a 2 3/8 string spacing on a standard 25.5 inch scale. So I can do all my hammer offs and pull offs and things like that. So it's perfect for me. So I now had 2 DS2Hs and a mahogany DS1. What more could a man ask? Well, I looked at eBay and I saw a sunburst one, remarkably like this one. And I looked at it and it had an Adirondack top, and sunburst. Well, I made a couple of inquiries, but I decided it was silly and I didn't follow it through. But an acquaintance of mine did, and he actually purchased it. And he buys and sells guitars quite a lot, a bit of a wheeler dealer, and so a little while after he bought it, he contacted me and said, "Hi Andy, did you see that sunburst Collings on eBay?" "Oh, yes, I did." He said, "Yeah, well, I got it, but well, I'm in your area soon. Would you like me to bring it over and show you?" Okay. So he came over, and money changed hands, and the guitar has stayed with me. I'm very, very happy with it. It has a different tone to the Sitka, which it should do. It's kind of, I don't know, creamier. The Sitka, that particular one, is very loud, very simple, projects very well. This one has a little bit more subtlety, not short on anything. And so then I had 2 rosewood Collings Dreadnoughts and 2 mahogany Collings Dreadnoughts. That should be enough, shouldn't it? Well, it was, and it is. But earlier this year I was having some trouble with my older one, and it needed a refret. The refret didn't quite work out well. I got it plecked, and also I was still recovering from this recent illness, and so I suggested to the people that had plecked it for me, I said, you want to just hang it up on the wall on consignment and see what happens? And I thought, it won't sell. If I change my mind in a month or two, I can go and get it back. It sold within a week, and I'm rather sad about that. So I'm left with just one rosewood dreadnought and 2 mahoganies. I expect the situation will remain the same, but of course, when you've got 6 strings, it's nice to have a 12 string as well, isn't it? And I got this one, a Martin D1220. Yes it is. No it didn't. Yes it is. And I got that in 2011, but this is the start of another video. So if you have been with my Collings hat on, I would say thanks again to John Dunne for this idea, and if you have been, thanks for watching. All the best. Bye.